All right, so of course, the 2019 NFL Draft, ancient history. The Giants have themselves a whole host of new players, 10 draft picks, 3 in the first round. First time since 67, Big Blue pulled off the hat trick in the first. Here's what I'm going to do. My name is Matt Levine. Thank you for joining me here on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Check out 954sports.com. I have a question, by the way, that was sent in, and I encourage you to share comments, ask me questions by a guy named Gary Chisholm of Lake Placid, New York. I'm going to try to get to it as I wrap up this report. Let me tell you what I'm going to be talking about, and then we'll get to Gary's question. So the Giants select 10 players from all different walks, different positions, different schools, different regions of the country. But at the end of the day, I believe each of those 10 players had what you'd call a superpower. I'm not talking about the kind of superpower that was one like the greatest American hero. You just put on the uniform and crazy, you know what happens. I'm not even talking about the superpowers in Super Fuzz. The Superpowers. If you see Red. What a great movie. Now, if you haven't seen either of these, you're missing out on classics. Go check them out. But I'm talking about the type of superpowers that a player has, the intangible, that makes them too irresistible to pass up in that draft, and that's why the Giants selected him. So the first guy they selected, whether you like it or not, he's the Giants quarterback, potentially for years to come, and it looks like the heir apparent to Eli Manning. And no doing of his own, certainly raised the most eyebrows in the draft, not only in New York, but I think he was the most controversial selection of 2019. Surprise, surprise. Daniel Jones of Duke University, 6'5.5", about 230. They say his arm strength is sufficient. I did a WTF Daniel Jones piece here on my YouTube channel. Check that out. Have clips in there. I don't know. His arm strength looks good to me. He's also mobile. But I think the glaring strength that he had and why the Giants took him is the ability to win games as a consummate professional. One of these guys like Eli, a clone, if you shall say. A guy that is going to dedicate himself to his craft. He'll be in the building at the facility in the Meadowlands, 365, 24/7. Every day of his football life, he will try to become better. A gym rat, lives and dies to study the film, represent the organization with class on and off the field. And the Giants, of course, believe they can get wins. But the factor of being a consummate professional and a long-established quarterback that can be the face of the franchise, the Giants gambled on that for Daniel Jones. Now, their second pick, all 340 pounds of him to go along with a 6'3" frame, is named Dexter Lawrence from a great football university, particularly on the defensive side of things, Clemson University, a Tiger. Why'd the Giants select him? Speed. The fourth fastest run in the 40 at the Combine in the history of the Combine, 5.05. That's why Dexter is now playing for Big Blue. I expect him to be plugged in right away and do some big things. Now, the third and final first-round draft pick was a surprise. Giants flipped 3 picks to the Seattle Seahawks to get the 30th pick in the first round, and they capped it off taking this guy here, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker. Run DMC, right? I'm talking about Mr. DeAndre Baker. Looks like a great kid. Seems like, on paper, a talented kid. Off the field, a gentleman. Like what I see. And especially the ability to be a shutdown corner. That's why the Giants selected him and made the trade to Seattle. 1 touchdown pass allowed as a starter on his watch as a cornerback at Georgia in 3 years. Wow. Next up, the Giants took a guy who sort of reminds me of a fictional character, okay? An iconic film, a classic. Folklore classic, if you want to say. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. We all remember Forrest Whitaker as Jefferson. That scene where he just brutalizes the opposing school for what they did to his car, right? Long live Spicoli and his old man's tool set. Anyway, when you watch the film of the Giants' fourth round pick, and that's him, you see a motor that doesn't stop like Jefferson and his fictional character played by Forrest. O'Shane Ximenez from Old Dominion University, 32 sacks in 49 games, the epitome of a pure sack artist. A steal as an edge rusher, too good for the Giants to pick up in round 3. That's why O'Shane is on the Giants. Giants hoping for some TLC out of their fourth round pick from the University of Notre Dame. Julian Love, what made him irresistible to the Giants? His superpower, you might say again. His ability to play the slot and outside schemes as a very physical defensive back. Exactly what you need in James Bettcher's defense. As you can see, Giants loading up with cornerbacks. We're not done yet, but let's talk about linebackers. You want a blue-collar, lunch pail guy. This is one of them. Ryan Connolly. I think you pencil him in for the next 8 to 10 years. Reminds me of Gary Reasons for some reason. A walk-on at Wisconsin for the Badgers. Not too shabby. Tackle machine. One of those guys. Why'd the Giants select him? His heart. This dude the Giants took in the 6th round because of his speed. Remember a famous basketball commercial with Kevin Johnson back in the 90s? KJ was some player for the Phoenix Suns. And the slogan or the moral of the commercial is you can't teach speed. Nope, you can't. And that includes 4.39 in the 40 at the combine. Track star speed, Bullet Bob Hayes style. A little old school. Now, when I did one of my other reports here on my YouTube channel about Mr. Irrelevant, which I will do a follow-up on, the 254th player selected in this year's draft, the last. And that will be coming up, so stay tuned. But in that report I did a few days ago, I highlighted the fact that scouts will go far and near. They will travel all corners of the universe. Small, medium, big schools, whatever falls in between, including Washburn, the Ichabods. Great team name. And the Giant scouts in the 6th round found this dude, Corey Ballantyne, a cornerback. His superpower, man coverage, speed, agile. Another guy that fits like a glove in James Bettcher's scheme. So an Ichabod to a New York Giant. Going to be a big addition. Another guy who I think they're going to plug in and play right away. If there's one thing the Giants learned is you can't have enough hog mollies, as Dave Gettleman calls them. Old school name for a tough guy who plays in the trenches on either side of the ball. That's one guy right there, wearing 6'4" for the Blue of Kentucky. George Asaf Ajayi. His superpower, protecting running backs. An extremely talented run blocker. He was projected in some mock drafts and by some experts, quote, end quote, to go as high as the 2nd round. The Giants get a steal there. So load up and stockpile those hog mollies. You can't have enough of them because 26 is going to need a lot of room to run. Regardless of anything, you count your blessings. Don't forget, you have Saquon to look forward to next year. Hallelujah. The face of the franchise. Love that kid. And I love this pick because he may be called on to protect Saquon and open up those holes to daylight and glory. And finally, the Giants want Hog Molly on the other side of the ball. Defensively, 6'4", 307 pounds, Chris Layton. Strong, old school, plug-and-play defensive lineman. That's why the Giants got him, because you can stick him in from day one, and he'll be a gamer. The kind of guy you have to pry out of the football game from what I'm reading about. So that's how the Giants wrap things up, and that's how I wrap things up, is giving you kind of the number one strength that made these guys, again, too irresistible to pass up for the New York Giants. Now, I told you I had a question, so I want to get to that. This is from Gary Chisholm of Lake Placid, New York. I've never been there, but I do believe in miracles. He asked me, as we approach May 1st, Matt, What do you think the Giants' record would be for next year? That's a loaded question. But he does preface it heading into May. What do I think right now the Giants would be? Looking at it on paper, I know you might say I'm crazy or nuts. I've been called nuts with a Z at the end. But this is today's NFL. And you can go from worst to first or uncompetitive to competitive quick. Very, very quickly. When you replenish the talent pool with draft picks. You get some key free agent pickups. And don't forget, Betcher and Coach Pat Gettleman, they have 1 year of doing things their way. And it's going to pay off this year, I think. Especially as you start filtering guys you want and instilling a winning culture and environment. Winning begins with character. I'll argue that till the cows come home. How do you think Parcells did it in the 80s in Coughlin with his 2 Super Bowl wins? Even Jim Fossil got the Giants to the Super Bowl. Teams built on character. I think that's what the Giants are instilling now. So to answer Gary's question, I think right now, as of today, as we are days away from heading into May, the month of May, I don't think it's crazy for the Giants to look at a potential 9-7 if things go right. You have to be optimistic. So that's my answer to his question. But we are a long, long ways away from September and week 1. Until then, I'm going to look forward to seeing how these top picks, all 10 of them for the Giants, start panning out.